Hello and welcome to Our Experts Podcast. I am Carol Matichka, your host, bringing you fascinating perspectives from the world and realm of pharmacy. Hello, today we have with us a man who really needs no introduction at all. That is Mr. Michael Jackson, former CEO of the Florida Pharmacy Association for many years. We're so excited to have him on with us. He has retired, and I thought it would be really fun and interesting to bring him on and talk about retirement in general. This is not a topic we've ever talked about before, and as pharmacists, we go, 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 and I'd love to see what he's doing now that he's retired, how he planned for retirement, and how all of that is going. So welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me into your computers to share my thought processes with you. So, how can I help you today?
Absolutely. So first of all, tell our audience, how long were you a pharmacist? And you're still dabbling in things, I believe, here and there. You were just telling me that you just got off a law review, so you're still keeping busy. But how long have you been a pharmacist?
Well, I got licensed in 1980, so that's been a lot of
45
years.
years. Wow, yeah.
Approaching 50 years. I got a couple more years to go before I get there. So I've seen a lot in pharmacy over the years.
I bet you have. So tell the audience what you've experienced over the years. I know there's been some good and some not so good. We'll just put it that way. And some of your thoughts on that from your career.
Well, Dr. Boytichka, I have been a witness to a significant change in the practice of professional pharmacy over the years. It used to be you showed up, you prepared medications, you gave them to patients, you had a relationship with the patients, and you sent them home, and that was it. That was the practice. You either did community pharmacy or you did institutional pharmacy, but nowadays the practice has changed significantly. There are probably over 100 different pathways that you can go to now with your pharmacy degree that wasn't available when I first got out of pharmacy school. And the changes of the practice of pharmacy has a lot to do with the relationship that we have to our patient and the things that we can do with them. I think that's been exciting because for me, in the beginning, I saw, well, there are things that can improve in pharmacy, and what can I do as a stakeholder that can be involved with that? And one is to be active in my state's professional association, which we can talk about a little bit later on, because that opened
Sure.
a lot of doorways for a lot of our healthcare providers out there.
Oh, absolutely. And you talk about some of the history with pharmacy. My dad was licensed in the 60s, so of course, further back than you. And he wasn't even allowed to tell them what the medication was for, what it did. It was just a totally different time, what we've seen over the years. So fascinating. So when did you start thinking about like the sunset of your career and what that would look like?
Well, to be honest with you, the thinking about the sunset of a particular career needs to occur on the first day you start your career.
Okay.
Because, I know the kids nowadays that are coming through pharmacy school, and retirement is not a word that's in their vocabulary.
Right.
And rightly so, because they see it as something in a far distance future. However, what can happen is the years can go by very quickly, and before you know it, you're knocking on the door. So you have to begin thinking about preparing for that from day one. So you have to start thinking about, okay, what is my life going to be like once I get into my twilight years, when I get to the other end of the lifeline? So your health is obviously one of the things that's most important.
Sure.
So everything that you do in the first third of your year, in terms of maintaining your health and your stamina, your physical abilities, and your ability to move around, is going to have a significant impact on what's going to happen on the last third of your year. 80% of your healthcare spending will occur during the last 2 or 3 years of your life. And what you want to do is you want to prolong the need to have to do that spending as much as possible. So you want to start planning for that, exercise a lot, watch what you eat, Watch your alcohol intake. Of course, I don't drink. Have never
Right.
invited in that area. Don't smoke. But if you are involved in things that may be considered questionable behavior, take a good hard look at that, because what you're doing now you might not be feeling the effects. But I guarantee you, when you get to this side of the timeline, everything you did in the first side, you'll be feeling that even more so.
That's an amazing point, and something that I think we don't talk a lot about when we talk about retirement. We talk a lot about financial and being financially secure. But when you retire, you want to be feeling your best as you can, because you want to be able to do things. And that's an excellent point, and that starts early on. So thank you for bringing that up. And I think about my dad again and bring him up because he didn't retire till he was 80. But being a community pharmacist all those years and standing, he would work like 80 hours a week, and that standing really did a number. He ended up having 2 different hip replacements. But he was in his late 70s by the time he needed that. But all those things add up, everything that you do. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. And what did you imagine how the transition would work for you? What did you think would happen, or how did you imagine it?
Okay, so there's what you think would happen, and then there's the reality of what did happen.
Right.
So as I was getting close to retirement, the I was leading an active life. I was the CEO of the Florida Pharmacy Association. We were very busy doing a lot of things, a lot of engagement on policy, and spending a lot of time at the Florida Capitol talking to policymakers to help them understand the changes that need to occur in pharmacy, and it required a lot of brain work. But I was looking forward to the time when I can start dialing things down and not have to use so much brain in order to do the things that I did every day. And I said I was looking forward to maybe spending time with the grandkids, sitting down on the couch watching Netflix, playing golf, trying to get my golf game together. But guess what? Retirement is not always what you expect it to be. Sometimes it takes you down a different path. And,
Yeah.
and so the day I retired was the day that I get a phone call from one of our other universities here in Florida saying, "Hey, I understand you retired. We have an interest in bringing you on board as an eminent scholar in residence to help guide our students in making a transition into the practice. Would you be interested?" I said, "Well, I had enough sessions with Netflix to know that I don't want to do this for the rest of my life." I said,
Right.
"Okay, so long as I can still work on my golf game, that would be fine." So I went in and started working some with the university, and enjoyed spending time with the kids. I did that on just a couple of days a week. But the more time I spend on the campus, the more time that I was asked to spend on campus, and it ended up being 5 day a week
Oh, wow.
adventure, and it's almost back to a full-time job.
Pulling you back in. Well, and you do want to feel that you have purpose. I think that's something that we all want. And so you finding that, I think that's awesome. It keeps you young too, I think, in many ways. So, um, definitely different than I think you were thinking it was going to be. But wow, that's awesome that you do that. I hear from some people, they say, "Oh, when I retire, I'm going to be sitting on the beach with my cocktail in my hand every day." And it's like, yeah, and then you're going to be an alcoholic and completely sunburned. So it's not always what we think it's going to look like, right? And staying busy, and I think having a purpose, I think that's fantastic. So um are you
I
happy
still,
that
yeah, I
that you've
still
gone that
desire to
route?
try to find, yeah, I still try to desire to find a way to fix my golf game, because it's
Yeah,
not
you
very
do.
good, and that was my goal. So I'm going to have to find a way to get some time to get out there, because my dear friend Ed Hamilton, he's a professional golfer, and he's a University of Florida graduate,
Oh, yeah.
and I understand he hits it a mile. I don't hit it a mile. I might hit it a few feet, but my goal is to try to at least stay close to him if possible.
So you'd like to have maybe a couple more days in there where you could practice your golf. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, share some tips with our listeners, maybe some things that you would have done differently when you were planning for retirement.
Okay, one of the things that I think we touched on in the beginning of our discussion was the we talked about the health side of
Hmm.
preparing for retirement. What we didn't what we didn't really spend any time on is the financial side.
Sure.
And that's probably the most difficult decision making that a young pharmacist has to make, especially one who's fresh out of school that has maybe some school loans to pay back or some expenses they're trying to cover. How do you plan for a retirement in the twilight years that's ahead of you? Well, the one word that I would put on the table that needs to resonate in everybody's mind is start.
Yeah.
You have to begin. You have to think in terms of your retirement as paying yourself before you pay anything else. Retirement is sort of like a bill, sort of like a light bill or a phone bill or something like that. You have to invest in your retirement. Um, of course, investment nowadays is taking on a new term, especially with the market doing what it's doing now.
Hmm.
But ultimately, when you look at the trends over the career that I've had, the market has always gone up. It may have peaks and valleys there. It may go up a little bit and it'll drop a little bit and it'll go up a little bit more and it'll drop a little bit, but the trend always appears to be up in the market. And you want dollars to help cover your costs. The thought
Sure.
process of thinking that, well, Social Security will be there for me when I retire. Folks, the reality is Social Security is only going to be a supplement to what you're going to need for your retirement. And so you're going
Right.
to have to find a way to fund the twilight years to do the things you want to do. You want to live comfortably. You want to be able to take care of, you and your spouse with the funds that you have available. You're not going to be able to do that with the dollars that are available from Social Security. Plus, a lot of businesses and industries out there have done away with pension plans or pension programs.
Yeah.
And so you have to begin thinking about investing in the company's 401k plan if one is available and try to hit the top max that you can
Yeah.
so that your company can match what you put in and take advantage of that benefit. Because the more that you help in funding or providing resources into your retirement plan on the front side means the less pressure you have to put on the backside. I didn't start right away when I graduated from pharmacy school because I had a number of things that kept me off my track. But I got back on when I began to realize that, hey, look, I have to start thinking about what's going to be going on down the road. And it's not looking very pretty if I'm depending upon maybe the government to provide Social Security
Right.
or a pension plan because I was seeing less and less of those being made available. So you have to invest in yourself so that you can retire and try to work as long as you possibly can. If your health allows it and you have the ability to be able to compete in today's job marketplace, stay out there. I guarantee you that it'll keep your brain sharp
Hmm.
and will keep the other issues away if you're actively involved in managing a patient's therapy. I think it's the best thing you can do for you.
I
Now you're
agree.
going to want to retire early to say, well, I want to go on cruises and I want a vacation. There's only so much of that you can do in a
Yeah.
retirement, and you're going to start asking yourself this question: is there anything else out there that I can do?
Yeah. I hear that over and over again as people say, I retired, but I'm just finding myself wanting to do other things. And it sounds like you're doing quite a bit. But keeping your mind sharp, keeping your body sharp, I think all of that is so important. I think another thing, and you hit the nail on the head with start now, start early. The earlier, the better. But if you haven't started, that's okay. Start as soon as you can, basically. Um, but just making sure one of the things that you didn't talk about is, especially if you want to retire early, is the expense of healthcare. That is such a huge expense because you don't qualify for Medicare until 65. And then, you know, what is that going to look like? And it can be extremely expensive, especially as you're older. So keeping that in mind, that's a whole nother expense. How did that work out for you in regards to healthcare costs and all of that?
Well, Dr. Moitichka, I've been a purchaser of healthcare services because, I've had to manage pharmacies and operate businesses as well as being the CEO of the Florida Pharmacy Association. So I had to actually provide benefits for my employees.
Right.
And it's shocking to see how much it costs to provide basic healthcare services for my staff.
Yeah.
It got to the point so much so that what I was paying in terms of healthcare premiums for my staff was equivalent to an employee line. An employee, the higher employee costs that much just to provide healthcare for them, and it's
Yeah.
not going down.
No,
In
it's
the
not.
years that I served as the association CEO, I've never got a new healthcare contract that was lower than the previous year. It always went up. And the closer you get to your senior years, the more expensive your healthcare is. So much so that in some cases, your healthcare expenses will probably equal to whatever you're going to get in Social Security. And,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
that's that's a sobering thought to think about that.
Or even the cost of
So,
your housing, it can be equivalent to that. Like it's very expensive.
oh yeah, yeah, and housing, you have a little bit of control there because what you can do with your housing, you can work to try to eliminate your mortgages.
Hmm.
And I'm no financial planner, so you can't take what I say as advice. It's probably best to reach out and consult with a licensed financial planner to help you through
Right.
that. But I'm a believer in the being debt free, um, rolling down your credit cards to zero and only use those if you are planning to pay back your balances. To you to depend upon credit cards for purposes of providing basic life needs, I think is a dangerous thing to go into. I think credit cards are handy for purposes of having a digital economy, but I don't think it's a replacement for having an income or having funds available for purposes of spending.
Right.
So always be careful with that. There are tricks that you can do with your mortgage, for example. You can try to pay that down early, say by paying one additional mortgage payment per year applied
Right.
solely to the principal. That will retire your mortgage much quicker than you anticipate. So if you have
Yeah.
a
Quite a few
30-year mortgage, you
years.
can bring it down to less than 30 years. You could probably bring
Yeah.
it down to as much as 15 years if you do something like that. And before you know it, you're 10, 15 years away from retirement, but you're living in a home that has no mortgage on it. And so the only expenses you would have would be just basic maintenance and upkeep, and then you will have that.
And of course, taxes and insurance, which insurance continues to go up, but certainly having that as something not to worry about is really important. Yeah, that's some great advice there. Okay, so I suspect that our new practitioners might be thinking about retirement, like you said, is way off in the future. So, what are some other words of wisdom you would like to share, particularly with our new grads, new practitioners?
Well, with your new practitioners, you have to think of the professional track that you want to take. And one of the things I think we're having to find a way to address nowadays is work-life balance.
Hmm.
You want to have a long and successful professional career, but it's hard to achieve if you are not finding a way to get work-life balance in what you're doing. You have to be happy in what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you have to know that what you're doing is going to be part of a long career. So work to try to achieve work-life balance so that you're not having to deal with PSTD in the profession, post-traumatic stress disorder,
Yeah.
and having to be up at night wondering if this is the career path that you've chosen. You've chosen this for a reason, and if you chose it for the reason that I did, you found some way to to be happy in what you're doing. And that the happiness I get is knowing that the work that I did in helping patients to get better is satisfying enough for me. So for our young kids coming out, think about their work-life balance, knowing that they're not going to be all things to everyone, but they can be many things to the person that matters most, and that's themselves and their family.
Sure. And I think another thing is, and people have gotten a lot better at this, I think, over the years, but if you're not happy in what you're doing, look around, see what else there is out there. You don't want to be miserable every day with whatever career you've chosen. And pharmacy is very versatile. So if you find yourself wanting for more or not happy with your current position, look around, see what's out there. Don't be afraid to make that switch. I think that's important too.
Yeah.
So for colleagues that are in their middle years, let's say, and they're looking ahead, maybe they've got 15 years, 20 years to go, what advice do you have for them?
For my colleagues, and I was there once upon a time, a few years ago,
Not
that
long.
you have to begin thinking about, okay, my peak earning years were probably the first third and maybe halfway through the middle. And you get past the middle of the middle of your career, and then things start to level off or maybe back down a little bit because you're now beginning to really adjust your work-life balance, and you're saying, well, maybe 80, 90 hours a week of doing this is not something that I think I need to help me get through the last third of my career. And so this is where you begin to come to an acceptance that these are the resources that I'm going to have available to me once it's all over, and once I hang up my shingle or pack my office up and I leave. And so is this going to be what is necessary for me? For me, it was an easy decision because I don't have a lot of needs. I don't have a lot of wants. And so I can survive off of what was available to me once I finished. For others, it might be a little challenging because maybe their needs or wants were different from mine. But what you want to do is especially if you're in the middle part of your career, you want to pay next month's bills with last month's income, and try to just think of a process of doing that, so much so that you're not under pressure of trying to meet bills that are hitting the house, hitting your mailbox that you're not ready for. So when you have that mindset that, oh, I can take care of that bill, I've got the dollars are there in the bank, it's waiting for it to go there.
Right.
If you have that, you get to that point in the middle part of your career. If you're not able to do that in the middle part of your career, then that's probably a red flag that something's not progressing the way it should. And that's when you sit down with a financial planner to help guide you through where you're going so it can prepare you for a much better retirement that's ahead of you.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting when I look back because when I first graduated, you did want to spend money on things. You'd never had money before. You're just broke in college, you don't have a lot of money. And so you're excited. You want to get that new car. You want to get some of the things that you've never had. But that's your prime time where you can really save a lot of money if you really put your heart into it. And especially because when you're in that middle part of your career, now you've got kids, potentially a family, expenses go up a lot. It's surprising how much kids, and then they're, high school, going to college, all of that stuff really adds up. And so if you can do a good job in saving as much as you can early, sometimes that middle point, it gets a little tough, right? It gets a little difficult. But if you've been practicing all along, it's better that you had already started beforehand and then are continuing to put in as much as you can in that middle part. Just something I thought I'd throw out there because I've just noticed me being probably in the later part of my middle part of my career and seeing kind of where things have gone, I sometimes kick myself and say, if I had just been even more strict on myself in the very beginning, you can even do more in regards to potentially retiring earlier or just having that bigger nest egg, that sort of thing. And it's same with the health. You're talking about the health. You're young and you're healthy and you're thinking, I'm fine. I can stay up, burn the candle at both ends, this and that. But really it catches up too. And so that's when I start feeling it now at my point in my career, is I can feel some of those aches and pains and things like that. And I'm like, I got to make sure I keep up with all of that, because I see it. I see where my parents are, and like my dad, and what some of the struggles he deals with. And I'm like, I got to make sure that I'm healthy and ready to retire as well. But anyhow, so what about our colleagues who are maybe in those last couple years? They've got 2 to 5 years left, and they're looking at retirement right around the corner. What do you say to those individuals?
Those guys and gals have to do a deep dive into planning and preparing for what's ahead of them. They need to look at what their tax obligations are going to be. They need to look at what their lifestyle is going to be. They need to look at the home they're living in to determine whether or not they want to remain in the home that they're in, or perhaps do things like downsize.
Mm-hmm.
And look at what their needs for their family are. They also have to start thinking about end of life planning. What will happen to them if they get to the point where they're unable to care for themselves?
Yeah.
They need to think about maybe considering leaving a legacy of some sort. They may have been very good stewards of their financials in the beginning of life, to the point where they've now accumulated probably a pretty good nest egg, probably more of a nest egg than they would need in the final part of their life. And so they may want to think back and says, okay, I've been successful. I've done some things that have been beneficial for me and for my family. And now we have maybe a surplus of resources that we have that, we'll leave some for the kids if we have some kids, or we might leave some for our local church, or whatever our faith is. But maybe I want to leave a legacy for something for my university. I think University of Florida is real good at doing things like that. Also, those folks at Florida A&M University are good at endowments and things like that. So I think this gives an opportunity for us to give back and leave a legacy, a family legacy, for the work that we've done to the universities that set us up for success in doing the things that we need to do.
And help educate our future that way.
How long do you want to continue working? Typically you would think the retirement age is 65, but guess what? A lot of folks work well beyond the age of 65, and your dad is a classic example of someone who says, I'm not going to let this go. I still got, a lot of life left in me to do what I need to do. And in my case, I pushed it to 70, retired, came back, still working. So as long as I have my wits about me and I can find my way home, I'll continue to do the work that I need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points there. And you talk about the legacy. I don't think that's often things we think about, especially as we're younger, but it is really important. We want to give back. We want to give to our children and grandchildren, and all those costs are important. But looking at, well, what can I do? Look at whether it be wherever you practice your faith, or like you said, university or somewhere else. We like to think that we made a difference, and that is an important point. Thanks for bringing that up. So, what does every day of retirement look like for Michael Jackson? If we were like, every day I wake up, do you still set an alarm clock? How does all of that work for you in particular?
Well, Dr. Martiska, I have an alarm clock at my house, but I never set it because for whatever reason, my eyes open up before the sun comes up every single day.
Every day.
That is probably from nearly a 50-year career of doing that.
Right.
So it's up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and maybe get a little quick breakfast or something like that. Walk the dog because we still have a pup in the house, and so take care of that. And then it's scoot over to the campus here, which is where I'm at now, to take care of some things and to connect with students here because for whatever reason, these students keep me young and they keep me energized.
Yeah.
And then probably around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, after I had a field here, then it's head on home, and I try to take in maybe walk the dog again. If I have an opportunity to grab the golf clubs and head to the golf course before the sun goes down and do a little bit of that. And I used to be a good bowler, but now I'm just a bowler, which I'm
Just for
fine with
fun.
that.
Yeah.
So I'll do bowling twice a week, and every
Oh.
now and then they may have a tournament across the state, and I'll go participate
Oh,
in
wow.
that as well too. My brother has moved here from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
Oh, fun.
because I think there was one winter there that he said, "Okay, that's enough. I'm
Yeah.
out of here." And so he's actually in your neck of the woods in St. Johns County, and so I
Oh,
go
great.
and visit him every now and then.
Yeah.
And every opportunity that I get, I told the missus, the first lady, that we're going to be doing cruises on an annual basis.
Oh, nice.
And so she has agreed to that. So we've done a transatlantic cruise, and
Fun.
we did a trans-Pacific cruise. I
Wow.
enjoy that so much. I was 18 days across the Pacific from Australia to New Zealand to Honolulu.
Wow.
And I promise you, that was probably a life altering adventure.
Wow.
It's not often I get to do stuff like that, but if I
Yeah.
did it one time, I am good. I can smile now. I've accomplished my bucket list. I probably got a couple more things left on a bucket list to do. Hopefully, I'll have that list crossed off entirely before the last third of my timeline is finished.
That's great. You bring up bucket lists. That's something we didn't talk about. So you did have a bucket list and try to accomplish some different things in your retirement?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Of course, the major item on my bucket list was to try to do the best I can to make the profession better for our new generation of pharmacists that are coming up. And I look at the inventory of things that we mean me and you as leadership of the Florida Pharmacy Association and many other volunteers, the things we did to add to the practice of professional pharmacy were amazing. We got this profession to do things that many in other states are trying to do. They emulate what we accomplished here, and they look to Florida as the lead on the practice of pharmacy.
Yeah.
So we've been real thrilled over what we've accomplished, and to me, that was the high point of my professional career, and being able to say that we made a difference for our future and new practitioners.
Absolutely. And that's a great way for us to finish up is, I can't leave here without you talking about professional organizations and the importance of joining. So why don't you give us your spiel, Michael, about professional organizations and that importance?
Oh,
And you
well,
can
I
do it
think
in retirement, of course. You can be a retired professional and be involved. I think that's important too.
Yeah, I think that some may say, "Oh, you have a conflict of interest. You worked in professional organizations," but no, my conflict is for those of my colleagues who are not engaged, and hopefully at some point in time they will get an opportunity to see this and know how important and how critical their professional organizations are to their careers and to their profession. We are able to do the things that we can do and earn the income that we earn, primarily because of the work that's being done, like for organizations like the Florida Pharmacy Association, Florida Society of Health Systems Pharmacists, American Pharmacists Association, all those state and national organizations that are fighting on behalf of our profession. And I don't just say this just because I was intimately involved in managing these organizations. I'm saying this because I was a believer of that before I got into association management. I was a member of the Florida Pharmacy Association in the beginning and believed in the work that they were doing and believed in the outcome and the good they were doing for the profession. I just hope somehow, some way, that our 35,000 Florida licensees out there that are not involved in anything could step in and say, there is value in what these guys are doing. Because guess what? I'm doing something that no one else can do, and that's practice as a pharmacist in the state of Florida. And how can I make a difference? And the answer simply is join your professional association and add your voice. Because there are significant changes that are occurring politically. And I don't have to be the one to tell you that. You can see it every day on the news media of what's going on out there. And you can't sit on the sideline and to say, well, somebody else will take care of that. Somebody else is not thinking about your interests. Only we as stakeholders should be involved and should have a say in what happens to us. And if that what goes on my gravestone, then I'm good with that.
That's great. I love that, Michael. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a fantastic segment. I love talking about retirement. I'm actually excited about thinking about retirement in my future. I love that you're still involved and doing a lot, not only with organizations, but with the profession and with young people. I think that's so important. And hopefully people take from your example and do that as well, because there's so much I think you can still offer, and we really appreciate that. Anything else you want to say, Michael, before we end?
Well, Dr. Morticia, it's been a wonderful opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with you about these kinds of things. I'm planning on going to the FBA annual convention this summer. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to see you there and connect with not only you, but students from around the state. I just get excited whenever I'm connecting with my colleagues. And I wish the folks at University of Florida success again on their basketball program.
Yay, go
I
Gators!
was watching the game. I enjoyed that. And hopefully they'll be able to do something similar and do a back-to-back next year.
Oh, that sounds amazing. That was a three-peat for us, so that was pretty incredible. You going to Southeast Gathering as well?
No, I think I'm going to miss that. I think I've got something else scheduled.
Oh, gotcha.
Believe me, my calendar's right there and it's starting to get filled up.
You've got your calendar full. All right. Well, we want to thank Michael today for joining us, and thank you to our listeners as well. We appreciate your support of the show. Make sure that you go on there and subscribe to the podcast as well as the YouTube channel, and take care, everyone.